Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. We're going to dive into the new and the revamped version of the Strawberry Moon palette from Ensley Reign Cosmetics. Ensley Reign sent this out to me. This is a super colorful palette, at least for me, I would say. And I'm going to create 3 looks using this palette. You will see it in action, how it performs. I don't want to jump the bullet, but you'll get all my review towards the end of the video. This is how the palette looks. It has a beautiful mattes and shimmers and holochromy goodness in this palette. You know how much I love my Ensley Reign palettes, but this is definitely the most colorful that they've gotten in their collection. I don't have their older version to compare it for you guys, and I'm glad that they sent me the new version because this is more mattes to build up and beautiful shimmers. So let's dive into the live swatches using this palette because I know that you guys appreciate that, and then we'll dive into the 3 looks using this palette. I do have a code with Ensley Reign. It's Smithy Sony to save you 10% off. So if you are planning to buy this palette or anything on their website, use my code. Let's dive into the swatches. First we have Oasis, Letha, Eden. Let's do that. Oasis is more like a teal to a purple shifting shade. It's a very taupery like shade, but it's very dimensional, very sparkly. And then we had the shade Letha, which is like a minty tealy green shade, but it's very vibrant on the eyes and very buildable too. And then we had the shade Eden, which is like a green shimmer shade, but so dimensional. It's not shifty, but it's very dimensional. Look at the first shade, that purple to green shifting shade. It's magical, you guys. And I love that it is more like a taupery shade and it's not that opaque. Then you can layer it up on like any mattes and it will transform the eye look like no other. I really love those kind of shades. Okay, let's move on to the next 3 shades. We have Lagoon, which is more of like a mid-tone blue shade, I would say. Then we have Pool Party, which is a shimmery blue shade, but with like a purple shift running throughout it. And then we have the shade Awaken, which is more like a muted, deeper tone, tealy blue shade. So let's do that. Oh my God, so beautiful. Very pretty. Love the tones of matte that were chosen in this palette. Really love that. Look at the gradient going on. Let me also actually swatch the last shade so that that blue row is complete. And the last shade in that blue row, in the first row, is Summer Solstice. And this is more of that brighter blue to a purple shifting shade so that you can see the difference. So that is the shade Summer Solstice. And Summer Solstice is definitely more taupery as compared to this shade. And this was Pool Party. So that is the first row swatched for you guys. Really pretty. Okay, let's move on to the next row. All shimmers except this one shade, which is Poppy. And this is more of like that sunflowery yellow shade. Then we have the shade Sunkissed. And this Sunkissed shade is definitely more emollient. I would use this more in the inner corners so that it doesn't crease on me. Especially with this shade, do not use a glitter glue. Just because it's that smooth. Because it's a taupery shade, it can be very vibrant. It'll be best used as a one and done shade. That's what I would prefer. Look at that. It's such a beautiful shade. It's more of like that taupery shade, but you cannot even see the effect that I'm seeing. It's more of that peach to a green yellow shade, but very dimensional on the eyes. So that's the first 2 shades swatched for you guys. The next shade is also a peach to a pink shifting shade, but this is not as emollient as the Sunkissed shade. This shade I love. It's a fiery, pinky, orangey, goldeny shade. Then we have Golden Glow, again, a very dimensional shade. I know I don't wear a lot of golds, but this shade is so beautiful. The next shade is Peruvian Lily, which is, it's not emollient by any means. It's very like thick but smooth. I don't know how to say. That's radiant. Look at that. That is beautiful. That's just beautiful. Fiery pinky orangey shade. I love that. And then we have this one, Golden Glow, I think. Yeah, Golden Glow. Beautiful. And this Peruvian Lily shade, which is like a antique goldeny coppery shade. Look at that. That's beautiful and I love that. That's amazing. I love that. Let's move on to the next shade. We have Rose Moon, which is a holochrome. It's a pinky purple to a green shifting shade, but with like a lot of holochrome particles running throughout it. I hope you can see that. Can you see that? I really hope you can see that. My nail is disgusting. Okay, next shade is called Lunar Glow, which is actually the shade that I'm wearing on my eyes right now. It's more of like a purpley shade, but with a blue base. It's like a silvery purpley shade with a blue base. Oh man, this is so stunning. Rose Moon shade. Oh, these two shades, definitely my favorite in the palette. Look at that. So pretty, you guys, so pretty. Okay, let's move on to the matte shades. We have Montbretia, which is a pale, like a pastel-y yellow shade, but shows up really very nicely on the eyes. And then we have Snapdragon, which is more of like a warmer tone pink shade. Then we have Summer Love, which is like a Barbie pink shade. Let's watch that. There you go. The Snapdragon shade is definitely more like corally as compared to the other shade, which is more like a hot Barbie pink shade. So those are the first three mattes of the last row. Let's move on to the hot pinks. We have Strawberry Moon, which is like a hot pink shade. We have Ranunculus, which is like a mid-tone purpley shade. It's like a, what's that flower called? Orchid purple. Then we have this shade, which is Zinnia, which is like a paler purple. And then we have Butterfly Bush, which is that deep, oh my god, I love these shades. Deep like purple shade. I don't know. How do I explain all these shades? There you go. I hope you can see them. Just give me a second. Let me wipe my hands. Okay, there you go. And those are the mattes in the last row. And that is the entire palette swatched for you guys. It's so beautiful, so vibrant, so shifty. Like, look at those shades, so pretty. And I'll show you the entire palette swatched in the outside lighting too, and even in the inside lighting for that matter, just so that you can see all the sparkles, the shine, the dimension that you can achieve with this palette, because this palette is truly a colorful person's dream. Now, once you've seen all the swatches in the outside lighting, now let's move on to the 3 looks that I created using this palette. Okay, let's begin with the first look. I have no idea what to do with this. It's so colorful, so bright, and so happy even looking at this. You have no idea. Okay, let's start off with the shade Snapdragon. We'll go this way and see, okay? So we'll first start off with Snapdragon, mainly in like the inner crease of the eye. I don't have any primer or anything. Focusing right there. And then I'm going to take this Montbretia shade. I'm going to focus that right there in the inner part of the eye, just to give a little bit more brightness there. It's not going to show up too much on my skin tone, just because one, it's not like a lighter base, but because I'm melting it with, it'll mainly be like more of like a strawberry milkshake kind of shade. And then we're going to go this way. So let's take Summer Love next. And that's definitely more Barbie pink kind of shade. Looks a little bit more brighter than Snapdragon on the eye. I'm just gonna take that right on top of Snapdragon, going back and forth actually. And then dipping into Montbretia on the inner corner, just going back and forth right there. I want this more to be like a summery eye look. This eye look for sure. Let me just adjust my camera. Okay, let's take Strawberry Moon, this hot pink shade. I'm generally very, very scared of these shades just because it's so vibrant and colorful. But oh well. It's a colorful palette. You're not gonna get a neutral look, Smithy. Right there. I like that, okay? Just intensifying it a tad bit more. I'm blowing it out quite a bit on the outside. Right there. Cool. I like that, okay? Right there. Okay. Now, I'm gonna take a smaller brush and I'm gonna dip into this shade, which is Butterfly Bush, the deeper purpley shade in the palette. I'm gonna focus right there in the outer corner. And if I want more depth out of that shade, what you can do is just mix it with this Awakened shade and you'll definitely get that more of a depth. But for now, I feel like for this eye look, when I'm keeping it a lot more summery, I'm just gonna stay like that, okay? Going back and forth with the other brush, just softening the edges. Right there. Now I've got that gradient going on. I definitely want to use that shade Radiant. Maybe Radiant and Sunkissed would be good. Or maybe Golden Glow would be amazing too. Yeah, oh my god, that's stunning. Okay, I'm gonna take Radiant and Golden Glow together, okay? That's gonna be epic. Okay. I'm gonna go with Radiant right there on the majority of the eyelid. And this is like a very smooth multichrome. It's mainly pink, orange, gold. That is so pretty. Now I'm going to take that Golden Glow shade and I'm going to focus that right there in the inner part of the eyelid. Right there. And meshing it with that Radiant shade. You know, I'm lacking a yellow here. I have a yellow in the palette, so I'm definitely going to use that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Going back into that brush with that deeper purple shade, which is Butterfly Bush, and then just melting it together. I'm going to take the same shade on the lower lash line too. I'm going to take that shade Poppy, which is that sunflower yellow shade, this one. I'm going to focus that right there in the inner corner, just for a summery pop shade. I love that. Love that. Okay. Yeah, let's dip into this Summer Love shade and then run that in the lower lash line just to complete the look together. I love the way how this turned out. I'm going to finish off this eye with some liner and mascara and I'll get right back. And that's my first eye look. I absolutely love the way how this turned out. It's so fresh, it's so summery, it's so fun. This palette is fun and this definitely exceeded my expectations. I'm not big on colors, but obviously this is a colorful palette, but I'm in love with the dimension of the shades that's been used in this palette. I cannot wait to make the second eye look, so let's begin. Let's dive into the greens now. I get so tensed with greens. Okay, I'm going to start with the shade Lagoon, which is the mid-tone shade, bluey shade in the palette. And I'm going to take that mainly on the inner portion and on the outer portion of the eye. I'm just placing the shade first just to see what kind of an eye shape are we looking for. And it's all about the placement, especially when you dive into blues and greens, especially for me. I think that is a good placement of the eye, okay? So once we have that shape going on, now I'm just gonna wipe the brush. Okay, this is 13 Mini from Refa. I'm gonna take this shade, which is Letha. And this is more of like that minty shade. I'm gonna blend the edge of the blue with that minty green shade. And I don't know how much you can see the difference. I surely can. I love a good gradient happening, especially with those colorful shades. After we have those shades blended, I'm gonna take a clean blending brush. I'm just gonna fluff that all across, just so that we have that nice gradient and it's not harsh by any means. I love that. Okay, I mean, when you're seeing with this eye, that's when it looks a little weird, but this by itself, I can see a good gradient happening. Okay, now let's do the same thing, taking Lagoon on the lower lash line and taking Letha on the inner third of the eye. Now I'm going to take this shade Awaken, which is that deeper blue in the palette, and just going to focus there, right there in the inner corner, because we are going with a halo eye. I definitely want that depth. So I'm going to stamp it right there, just to give that maximum depth right there. As you can see, I've left my center of the eyelid bare for a shimmer, and I want to dip into, we can definitely go more monochromatic with those greens, or we can go the opposite way and dip into some purples. I think that would be fun too. How about that? Let's take this Rose Moon shade, and it's a holographic pink to a green shifting shade, so it'll definitely go with this eye look too. Let's take that. I'm gonna stamp it right there in the center of the eye, just to blend, because it's such a stark difference. I'm gonna take this shade, which is Eden, this green shimmer shade, on the same blending brush. Actually, I'm gonna just melt the edges of that pink and where that green meets, just so that we have that smooth blend going on right there. Yeah, better. I like that. I really like that too. Super deep dark, I know. Now for the inner corner, I want to take something light and airy. So I'm going to take this shade, which is Sun Kissed. It's more of like that peachy shade. I'm going to take a little tad bit because it's definitely picking up a lot on the brush. I'm going to take that right there and just brighten the inner corners right there. That's a beautiful shade. Ooh, I love that. Okay, I'm going to take actually a little bit of Sun Kissed right in the center, just to give a tad bit more brightness to the eye. Nothing much, just to give that dimension. Okay, let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara. Now for the final touch, I actually want to take this shade Oasis, and I'm going to just blend that in the lower lash line. I love a good sparkly lower lash line, especially with this eye look. I think it goes really, really well. I'm gonna just blend it across so it's not so stark. And that is my second eye look. Again, I love the way how bold it is, but obviously don't look at it with this. Like this, look at this vibe. I feel it's so nice and refreshing, but it's colorful, but it's so nice colors. Like it's the way it shifts. Look at that. It feels like I'm very monochromatic the way you look at me at this angle, but boom, that purple shows through and it is beautiful. I love both the eye looks. Obviously this is more like airy and open and fun. This is definitely more like nighttime and sexy and, you know, bold and dramatic. I cannot wait to show you the third and the final look, because I definitely want to play with this Lunar Glow shade. This calls out to me, you guys. Calls out to me. I don't know what am I going to do, but I feel like I am going to obviously play with some purples, because I've not played with purples, and you know how much I love my purples. So I feel I'm going to dive into those shades next, because we've used majority of the palette and I feel very good about it so far. Let's move on to the third eye look. I'm going to start with Butterfly Bush Ranunculus. sorry. And then this shade, again, Zinnia, I think Zinnia. These three shades first, and I think I'm gonna incorporate this teal again and then Lunar Glow. Let's begin. Okay, I'm gonna start off with this shade Butterfly Bush on my outer corners. And because this is gonna be my final look, I can show it to you on both of my eye looks, which is always the best thing. I feel so silly when I do two different eye looks, but just for the sake of my eyes, I have to do something. But I also want to show you as many looks as humanly possible on one day. I just removed the other two looks and I'm doing this obviously, but I could cover as much sparkle as I can with concealer and powder. Okay, now just taking off the excess, going back into this shade, Ranunculus, which is more of like that magenta kind of shade. I'm gonna bring this a little bit more further out, and this would be the shade that I'm gonna take on the lower lash line too. And now let's take this shade, Zinnia. I'm taking the same brush as of now, just because the blending would be more seamless if I use the same brush and just cleaning in between. Just right there. Look at that. Definitely more of a blending shade. Obviously, you can make this more like shebang, but I'm using mostly this as like a blending shade to that pinks. We can go two directions. We either can go into this and blend that and make it more teal and pinky purple, or we can go into this yellow and make it more warm tone and cool tone fusion together. And I feel we should go here, okay? Let's do that. Just because that lunar shade, Lunar Glow shade has that blue base. So I want a little bit of this shade. I'm gonna take that right there. Okay. Stamping it first in the inner corner because I want that vibrancy right there, and we'll deal with the situation here just in a second. And once you get to that situation where you're stamped, just go and do circular motion, and as soon as that teal and that pink mends together, you'll get that purpley effect coming through. It's more like a lavendery purple that it creates as soon as you start mixing those shades together. And that's exactly what we need right now, just because that Lunar Glow shade is more like green, purple, blue. Mixing these two shades was actually amazing. Yeah, I love that, I love that, I love that. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing on the lower lash line too, taking this shade Letha, and taking that, wrapping it around actually to the inner portion of the lower lash line too. I love it as it is actually. Beautiful. Okay, now that we've used all the mattes of the palette, let's start off with this shade, Lunar Glow, which is the prettiest shade in this palette. Look at that. It's so pretty, you guys, so pretty. And just take that in the center of the eyelid, wherever we left it blank, because I feel like this is the best mending shade for both of these shades, the teal shade as well as that pinky purple shade, because it just melts both of these shades so well together. Look at that. That couldn't be just more perfect. I love it. Sometimes leaving it to one shimmer is the best decision that you can do. I just love that so very much. For the inner portion of the eyelid, I'm just gonna take this Sun-Kissed shade again and just plop that right there in the inner corners. Do we need it? Absolutely not. Right there. Okay, I love that. Let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara. And that's my last and final look. I really love the way how this turned out. I so like it. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's talk about Strawberry Moon. because man oh man, is this colorful. If you are a colorful wearer, I feel like you'll absolutely love it, because the formula of this palette, these palettes, like these Ensley Reign palettes, are just beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let me tell you, I didn't use 3 shades: Pool Party, Summer Solstice, and Peruvian Lily. But I definitely can see myself using those shades like for future looks. Like, I love this palette. I really do. Yes, I'm not a big colorful person, but you could see how beautifully I could incorporate so many shades. And you don't need to go like all out by pinks and purples and all. You can have like a light wash of the shade on the crease and one of the shimmer shades on the eyes, and that would look just beautiful and dimensional, because that's all that you need with Ensley Reign shadows. Like 1 or 2 shades on the eyes will just create such a stunning look for you. I love the way how this performed. I really do. Don't tell me to pick a baby out of Ensley Reign palettes, because I almost have all the palettes from them. My love affair started with the Harvest Moon palette, okay? That's the first time I got a palette from Ensley Reign. I have Harvest Moon, I have Lands of Enchantment, I have Tea Party palette, I have Flower Moon, Strawberry Moon, Groovy Garden, Cold Moon. I have just everything from them. And I just cannot choose a baby because they're all so stunning. If I talk about Strawberry Moon, yes, if you love colors, you're absolutely gonna love it. I did not have any problem with any of the shades that I used today. And again, even though I'm more of like a subtle color wearer person, I still love this palette. I feel you can just do so much with this. There is holochromes, there is traditional shimmers, there are like taupery shades. I feel like these 3 pink shades, they're different, okay? They're different. These 2 purpley shades, they're different. But I feel like as soon as you see in like a palette, you would be like, why there's so many pinks in this palette? But they are different on the eyes. How can I tell you? It's definitely easy using a Ensley Reign palette just because its gradient is so beautifully built up. I love it. I just love it so very much. I really hope that you guys enjoyed all the 3 looks that I created using this Strawberry Moon palette. Do let me know which eyeshadow look was your favorite. By the way, whenever you get a Strawberry Moon, any Ensley Reign palettes, you get like this beautiful box. And this is how the palette comes in. And there's a area where this palette sits, and this is how the palette comes, like securely packed. I love the aspect of that, because then your eyeshadow is not going anywhere, it's not getting broken or anything, it's safely packed. And I love that aspect of it. If you want to buy anything from Ensley Reign, I have a code with them. It's SMITHYSONY to save you 10% off. I know these palettes can be a little expensive, but they're so worth the money in my opinion, because they do their matte and shimmer formulas so beautifully, so beautifully. I cannot recommend them enough. So that's all for today, guys. If you did like this video, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.